Michelle here and welcome to our natural dyeing session. So today we're going to talk about natural dyes, dyes that we find in nature that we can use to dye materials and clothes and wool. Our ancestors in Britain used to use woad and weld, which was a type of plant, to dye themselves blue to go into battle. You might have seen this in Braveheart, where William Wallace dyes himself blue and he goes off to fight on his horse. And in the Bible, cloths were dyed using grapes and berries to get different colours, different purples and different greens. And the Romans used saffron, which is dyes a type of yellow, and madder roots to dye things red. So we've used natural dyes for a long time. In Scotland, natural products we use, such as bark off alder trees to make things nice and brown, seaweed, different types of seaweed which dyes the material green, wool green as well, wild cress or violets, they give you a nice blue colour, and we've got heather. Now you'd think the purple heather would go purpley colour, but you can get different types of heather and it dyes yellow, so you get vivid yellows from heather. The fibres were dyed in different processes, so they were dyed gradually. So they were dyed, then left to dry, then dyed again, so you get deeper, more vivid colours. And they were used to dye materials and wools to make tartan kilts and to make tweed jackets as well. A lot of the tweed jackets that you get, Harris tweed, are nice deep greens, and you would have got this from kelp, seaweed, mosses and lichens. So we've been using natural dyes for a long time to either dye materials, cloths, wools, or to dye our own bodies. We can also use minerals and iron to dye things as well, and they help the process. Now, to be able to dye things, you need a fixant, something that will secure all the colours in the material and stop it from running. So on the table here, we've got a selection of natural things, fruit and vegetables, that you can use to dye your cloth or your clothing with. And a lot of these are used in tie dyeing. So if you're using vegetables like spinach and you've got onions, and we use asparagus and beetroot, then the mordant or the fixant that you use will be vinegar. So we could use ordinary malt vinegar, or the best thing to use is an apple cider vinegar. This fixes all the dye into the fibre and stops it from running, and it lasts longer. If you're using fruits, such as these blueberries, then you need to use a salt. So a basic table salt will do, and that is a fixant for the fruits, and it helps the fruits to stay in the material longer. So on the table, I'm going to show you what I'm using today. So we've got beetroot, fantastic for dyeing things, so I'll have to wear gloves so I don't dye my fingers. We've got spinach, which gives you a nice green colour. I'll tip them out into the bowls that you can see. I've got turmeric as well, which you can buy at the shop. This is really good for making your yellows. We've got red onions. Now you only need to use the skins of the red onion and boil the skins up. Okay. We had asparagus in this one, which gives you a very pale, almost like lime jelly. And in this end one, like I said, we've got blueberries. You can also use blackberries and elderberries as well. Remember on the nature walk we found some elderflowers, which you can make elderflower champagne with. Well, once you get the berries on the tree, if you collect the berries with some gloves on, they're high in vitamin C, but they also dye clothes as well, so they're really good for dyeing. So these are the things we're going to be using today, and I'll show you how we're going to do it now. So for the next step, I've got some pieces of 100% cotton material here, and I'm going to pour some salt into the container with some water in. So we want to get some salty water. We need quite a lot in there. Okay. Pour all the salt in. Now, as you can see, I'm wearing gloves because I don't want to dye my hands. Okay, it's not a good look. So what we do, we get our material in there, soak it really well, do two, a bit around in the salty water. Yeah, that's it. Bit of good wash. Wring it out. So that's our material. Next thing we're going to do, decide on what dye colour you want. So for today, I'm going to be using my blueberry dye. So I'm just going to show you on a small piece of handkerchief what we can do. Okay, so it's got some bits on it already. So we'll need elastic bands. So all you do, you just pinch the material and wrap the elastic band round really tight as many times as you can. So this will give us a splash effect. If you want it to be bars, lines going across, then you roll your material into a sausage shape. So roll it out into a sausage and you attach the elastic bands going down. And then you can dip it into different colours. But for today, we're just going to use the elastic bands and tie them as tight as we possibly can. So we'll just put 3 on. Okay, 3 elastic bands on like that. Now, because the material's absorbed the salt, it's ready to be dip dyed now, and then we can rinse it out. So I will just show you how to do that. And tighten the elastic band. What happens is it keeps the material white underneath the elastic band, and then you get a white circle or a white splotch. So to make sure you do this fairly tight. You can also put stones in there, so put a stone underneath the material and wrap your elastic band around the stone, or you can use things like lentils and other things. So what we do, we're going to get our tub ready and we're going to dip our material into the fruit juice, and you can see it's starting to get a beautiful purple colour already. So be careful you don't get it on your clothes, and make sure you wear gloves. Got some nice bits of blueberry stuck to it as well. Okay, so we'll do that. Squeeze it back out again. Give it a squeeze. You see the colour of it now? It's got a nice deep colour. That reminds me of heather, like a really deep heather colour. We'll give it another dip. See? Another dip. Now we can leave this to dry and then dip it again. And depending on how many times you dip it, the colour will go darker and darker. But for today, because we want to make a quick video to show you, I'm going to leave it like that. Okay? Move on to the next one. So I'll leave that in the tub. I'm just using scraps of material, but if you get a new t-shirt, make sure it's 100% cotton, and then it dyes better. Show you with this one. So we'll use the turmeric next. So look at that beautiful mustard colour. It's like a really golden yellow, and that's been achieved by just boiling up, heating up the turmeric in some water. So it smells absolutely fantastic as well. So we're going to make bars on this one, so lines going down. So make sure you get your elastic band all in the same place, otherwise you'll just have lines on it and it won't be a solid enough white line to dye it in the design you want. So let's get another elastic band on there. We'll just do 3 for today. Do 3 elastic bands. Pip round, and then we'll start dyeing this one. So all we do for this one is dip it in the same. Okay, we'll dip it in, we'll see what happens with this. This one might go a little bit paler, and it's best to dip this a few times, unless you want a pale, like a sunflower yellow. See how it's starting? It might take a little bit longer, this one, to go to the deep yellow that you want it to be. But you can leave it soaking in there, then dry it out, and then soak it and dry it out a few times. So that's might take a little bit of time, and that's how you dye your wool as well. You dip it and then you dry it, and then you dip it again and dry it. And especially for if you're doing things like your wet felting and things like that, the wool is, if you get coloured wool, it's been dipped out. So that's fantastic, it's got a nice yellow colour. Right, so I'll put that to one side. And what I'll do now, I'll just get rid of these gloves. Make sure they go inside out and then they don't go all over my fingers. And then I'm just going to go and give them a quick rinse. So, back again, we've had our materials had a quick rinse. So what we need to do now, if we don't want to dye it again, we can rinse it, and then we can just take our elastic bands off and see what's happened underneath. You can see a little bit of white there. Wow, look at that. So let's see if the other ones have worked as well. Like I say, the tighter the elastic band, the better the circle you get. So I love this blueberry dye, it's fantastic. So we've made 3 little circles in that one, which is what we wanted to do. And then we'll see if this has worked. Now this is a lot paler, so I would have dipped this a few times and left it to dry and then dipped it again. But today we're going to just dip it once. So I can see it has got a little white mark there. Just get the elastic bands off. So if you wanted to make a little patchwork cushion or something like that, you could use smaller squares and then sew them together. So let's see if this one's worked. Move that one along. Let's see. Open it out a bit. Right, so we've got stripes on this one. If you can see them, so on this one, we've got nice stripes and it's quite vivid and bright. And on this one, we've got circles. So I hope you've enjoyed our tie-dyeing, our mini natural tie-dyeing session. Have fun, lots of fun with it at home, but make sure you wear gloves and an apron because we don't want to stain you off your clothes at home, do we? And I hope to see your tie-dyeing sessions. When you come back, you can show me what you've made.